One of the things that farmers do that they really don't get a whole lot of credit for doing is maintaining ditches and fence lines, and that stuff just doesn't make any money.
Well, it doesn't necessarily make you money right now, but it keeps a lot of those weeds and problems from creeping into your field. So from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense.
But you know, here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize. Out in the country, it's a little bit different in the city. When you own, let's say, a section of ground, you don't just own the farmland, you also own the fence line, you own the ditch, and you own half the road. You know, I didn't even realize this until I got to be a little older when I was growing up. And Dad's like, well, I own halfway into the road. Now, don't get me wrong, the farmer isn't expected to maintain his half of the road or anything like that, but it's true. The farmer owns half the road out in the countryside here, so we're on a lot of these little gravel roads, township roads, and you know, the farmer has to take care of that ditch, he has to take care of that fence line, and it's an expense every year.
Well, Dad said he only owned half the road, but I always thought the way he drove, he owned the whole road. I'm just kidding, Dad, just picking on you a little bit, but it is true. Along these ditches, we do have to take care of them, and that means mowing grass down at certain times of the year too, but we want to focus on the weed control because there are a lot of problem species like leafy spurge, for example, or many of the thistles that get going in ditches and then they end up spreading out into fields and spreading seeds all over, and it's a big deal.
And here's the other problem. When you've got crop right next to that ditch, what a lot of farmers will do is they'll wait until after they've got everything done with their crop and then they decide, oh, well, now I need to go take care of the ditches. And that's fine. I mean, it should be the lowest priority. But the problem with that is when you have crops growing right there, it could be wheat or corn or soybeans or any crop, those crops are sensitive to a lot of the things that we would like to spray in the ditch. So to get leafy spurge, for example, you have to use Tordon. To kill a lot of other weeds, you might need to use Milestone or 2,4-D or something else. All those products will hurt corn, soybeans, and wheat for the most part. So if you're going to do that, our suggestion is do it in the fall. That's what we've switched to on our farm because I was kind of sick of trying to spray ditches and be really careful. You had to pick just the right day, and it was hard because you got to spray all around a whole section. So you could only
so the wind will be right for one of the four sides.
One of them. Yeah, so literally it was taking us 4 times as long as it should because we'd have to go out one day and do the east sides of every field. Then the next day you could go do the north sides. That was a real pain. So now we're doing it in the fall. This is what we would recommend to all farmers is go out there in September when the crop is maturing. You're not going to hurt the crop with chemical anymore if you happen to drift a little bit, and then get your spraying done. Spray a strong rate of 2,4-D or Milestone or Tordon, something, and you can have great weed control in those ditches and you don't hurt the crop.
All right, I'm going to say something to the people that are going to spray right now. You say, wait a minute, I've got issues right now. I've got to deal with them now, or I'm going to get in trouble with the county or with my neighbor or something. Consider this. Throw a little bit of insecticide in with that herbicide as you're going. Because think about all the bugs that start out in the ditches. There are tons of them. Lots of moths like to go in the ditches and start from there. There's grasshoppers that start from the ditches. There's all kinds of insects that start in the ditches, move into your fields. So why not just kill them in the ditch and be done with it? For the roadside ditch spraying that we do, we have much less of a grasshopper issue than anybody I know because we sprayed all the ditches. So there really is no home for them to get into our field.
Yep. Okay, I got one last thing. Fence lines on our farm, since we don't have livestock anymore, we've torn out miles of fence so we don't have to deal with it. But the fence lines we have had to leave that are right around pastures, we will actually kill the weeds right in the fence line because otherwise it's just an eyesore. And we're trying to have our farm look as nice as we can. But when weeds are growing up in the fence line or even just grass growing up in the fence line, that's not real great. So we're actually controlling the weeds right below the fence line and killing everything, usually using a ground sterilant to kill the grass and all right below the fence line. So now we can mow on either side of the fence line. That looks nice, and we don't have to worry about grass or weeds coming up right in the middle.
Well, you say all these little things with ditch and fence line care don't make you money. I really disagree with that. I think they're going to make you money in the long term with stopping problems before they get into your field. Also helping things look nice. Maybe it helps you impress that landowner that you could rent another piece of ground from or something, but it just kind of makes it look like you're on the ball.
Well, we might have to disagree on that a little bit, but there's one thing we don't disagree on, and that is our weed of the week could be the worst yield robber in soybeans, other than volunteer corn, of course. But it is one of the worst yield robbers in soybeans. If you have it could be a disaster. We'll tell you how to stop it on your farm coming up later in the show.